Ho, ho, ho. This is your host, Francis Tapon. For the Christmas 2019 edition, we have brought a special present, gift-wrapped. His name is Sim Blanchard. This time we talk about how Sim has used a variety of DNA services to find out where his ancestors are and then go stalk them, find out where they are, meet with them. It's a great travel objective. He tests out 4 different DNA kits, and he tells you his experience about each one and which one he recommends for what. We talk about his girlfriend. How does he manage a long-term relationship and a long-distance relationship at the same time? But then we talk about travel, his trip to Brazil, his walk on the Continental Divide Trail, and on El Camino de Santiago this year. We talk about divorce, spousal support. How does it work? And how sustainable is his way of life? Any challenges there? And finally, we end with some predictions for the 2020 presidential election in the United States. Great episode. You'll love it. Merry Christmas, everybody. Welcome to the WanderLearn podcast. This is your host, Francis Tapon. In this episode, I have brought back my first person that I've ever brought back. No other guest have I invited back to the show. Why? Because they're all terrible. No, it's because Sim Blanchard has the second most downloaded podcast of all. In fact, for a long time, he was number one until Tour Radar CEO got their podcast to be the number one most downloaded one. But Sim really stole a lot of people's hearts. It was one of my longest podcasts, too, to top it off. It was over 2 hours or so. And I was just surprised that it garnered such interest. So here we have back with us the famous, the infamous Sim Blanchard. Welcome.
Thanks, Francis. I appreciate being here.
It's a little cold outside here, but we're real men. At least I am. I don't know about you.
I'm a wuss. Good to be here.
So a lot of people in our first interview, most people I think really liked it. That was why it was shared so much, and that's why it became such a popular episode. But I did get criticisms for having, like 2 people wrote and said in reviews on Apple Podcasts, giving me like 3 stars for the whole podcast, not just for our episode, and said that I interrupted you too much.
I didn't feel that, but whatever works.
Let me try and interrupt you again.
Yeah.
And I think what people missed is, number one, I'm face-to-face with you, and I'm doing it again. We're doing it once again face-to-face, versus a lot of my interviews are done over the internet, and therefore there's a lag. And here I'm looking at your eyes. I can, and we're recording. We each have separate mics. It makes it very easy to interrupt. And the second thing is that we're friends. We've known each other for many years. We've hiked thousands, probably over 1,000 miles.
4
together.
months.
Yeah. We walked across Madagascar. We did the Drakensberg Traverse. Anyway, we've known each other a lot, and as a result, we're like buddies. And then that's another thing, is that people think I'm interrupting. Well, that's what friends like talk over each other sometimes.
Yeah.
So fuck you.
Yeah.
I think men oftentimes, even more so than women, show that almost as a sign of affection.
Right.
In other words, just talking trash and that kind of stuff is kind of the endearing way to do it. I don't know why they do that, but that's what men often do. So this whole interview, this whole idea of having you here, Sim, is just to answer one question, actually.
Okay.
This is a very profound question. Don't laugh. This is very important. And I think it's the listeners of this podcast, it's on all their minds. And so I figured I could save this for last, but I figured since it is the most important question I could ask you, I should start with the beginning. So here we go. Sim, how long have you been a complete asshole?
67 years and 2 months.
I mean, have you always been an asshole?
Yeah, of course.
Because it took work for me. I actually had to work. You were just born with this asshole skill.
Yeah.
And, it's very frustrating to me. You have a natural talent to be an asshole.
Right, yeah.
And
genetic.
Yeah, it's genetic. It's fucking DNA. And I've had to work to be an asshole. And part of this podcast is to help bring out the assholeness.
Bring out the wise.
Yeah, so I can catch up to you, the master asshole.
Right.
Anyway, so tell us what 2019 has been for you since our last. We talked about literally a year ago.
Yeah,
and here we are at the end of 2019. So Give us an update of what you've been doing.
Yeah, December I went to Brazil for 3 months and visited relatives. I found out I have German relatives that migrated. Some migrated to the U.S. and others went to southern Brazil. So I went down.
Stop.
Yeah.
Say, I'm interrupting you again.
No,
Everybody's going to call me an asshole. Fuck you.
No.
But why how did you find out you have these relatives there?
Actually, on Facebook, we kind of have a unique German name, Saueressig. And so I just Facebook, they're big on Facebook down there, so I connected, and then I used a lot of the genealogical programs, MyHeritage and Ancestry and 23andMe, and connected and found the relatives. And we had some letters that went back and forth in 1889 between America and Brazil, and that gave some clues. And I had a relative in 1950 that went down, and so we had some information. And when I hitchhiked down there in 1974, I wanted to go over and visit them, but I didn't have the time or the money. Now I have the time and the money, and so I made contact, and we had a great family reunion of about 100 people in Rio Grande do Sul, and another one in near Porto Alegre. And I'm going next month to for 2 weeks for another couple reunions.
Wow,
so
this is so fascinating.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's like, my mom just asked me to do a DNA test.
Yeah,
and she wants me to get a couple of kits.
Yeah.
So that we can test our DNA and that kind of stuff. And specifically, she's most interested in ancestry. So tell us about, it sounds like you did 23andMe and another one?
And Ancestry and Family Search and MyHeritage.
Family Search, I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, that's the Mormon one.
You're
and
a
they're
Mormon?
really good.
Are you a Mormon?
No, but they have a tremendous, they're just great with the genealogy.
Oh, I guess so.
Yeah, I traced.
Yeah, because they got to prove that Jesus went to South America or whatever.
Well, I traced one branch back to King Canute, who was king of Norway, England, Denmark, and part of Sweden back in 1000 A.D., and he's a direct ancestor.
Really?
Yeah.
Because of which one told you?
Mainly Family Search.
Listen, my ancestor's Hitler.
Yeah,
so,
we're all related.
That's part where my asshole gene comes from.
Mine's King Canute.
Okay, yeah, he was a fucking asshole too.
That's right.
No, but I've also heard. I think it was in Bill Bryson or other places I read that basically. Oh no, it was A.J. Jacobs.
Yeah, it's all relative.
It's
Fabulous.
all relative.
That got me interested in initially.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
A.J. Jacobs.
Yeah, so I met the guy and he actually
you
autographed one of my
did?
groups, and he actually endorsed, he blurbed the Hidden Europe book.
Oh, is that right? Oh,
yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah,
Cool.
go to the Hidden Europe and you'll see that there is a plug now.
Well, I endorse your book too.
Yes,
That was
I know,
fabulous.
but you're not A.J. Jacobs.
And I'm going to follow in your footsteps in the Hidden Europe too next year.
There you go.
Or the
No,
following.
but seriously, so A.J. Jacobs was basically pointing out that if you go back far enough, we're all relatives.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, and I went back, I think it's 29 generations, and that's 2 to the 29th, and that comes out to about 500 million. So I guess it's just a matter of who you trace back. I mean, how you traced it back.
It's amazing.
So
but it's a very profound lesson, I suppose, is that I got this guy when I was, I wrote an article. It's called Defining the Sub-Sahara, and I discuss about how do we define the Sub-Sahara and that kind of stuff. And this one Ethiopian came in and says that I'm an ancestor of slave traders. You know, like my ancestors were slave traders and I'm an asshole. And, just his way. And he said this insult at least 3 times to me, like that my ancestors were slave traders, something like that.
Right.
And I actually, my response to him was, well, you probably don't know this, but since you're an African descent, there's a really good chance that your ancestors were, at least some of them, were traders. I mean, some were slaves.
Yeah.
But then there has to be trade slavery. And just Ethiopia wasn't colonized seriously, but still they had slavery in Ethiopia. And so therefore, it's a chance that some of his ancestors were slave traders, making money profiting off slave trade. And there's a chance that some of them were actual slaves.
Right.
And I mean,
yeah.
And I'm like, and who cares?
Yeah.
Like, so what? I mean, like, we've all got baggage, and like to punish somebody for their ancestry, or you got these guys who are like, my parents went from the Mayflower. I'm a Mayflower. Like, so what?
Yeah.
Like, if you go back far enough, we're all related to George Washington, and we're all related to...
And we must have been brutal and cruel to have survived this long.
Somebody must have done something
We traced
bad.
one branch of our family back to the Swiss Alps, and it turns out it was, we were the Etruscans that had been forced up into the Alps by the Romans. And then when Julius Caesar came through, they did the Pax Romana, which means kill all the men and boys and rape all the women. And then they established our group as a colony to guard against the evil Huns that were coming in. So, my ancestors, we're pretty, we've done some vicious things.
So actually, you're not really that much of an asshole compared to your lineage.
It's my genes, yes.
It's very impressive lineage of complete assholes.
That's
like somebody's listening to this, Sim, and they want to know that which one should they do for the DNA test and all that kind of stuff.
I guess to trace things back and connect, I liked Ancestry, DNA. To build your family tree, I liked MyHeritage. Now I have 19,000 relatives that I have on my family tree. For health tests, I think 23andMe. So it kind of depends what's most important, and it'll probably change as they get better, as their algorithms improve. So that's my recommendations for those. I did all three, and they each have benefits, for the DNA. But I mainly do the family tree, the program, the database program on MyHeritage.
And is there one that you would not recommend?
No, they all seem pretty good.
Really, they all that one you mentioned I never heard of. What was it?
Family Search.
Right. I'd never heard of that. Did it really provide stuff that the other three that you used?
Family Search, as far as going back, to King Canute and, following it back, they're fabulous. You can just, follow it all the way back.
Right. Back to the protozoa and the amoeba that you came from.
Yeah. Well, I have one relative that they were a family of 112 kids and one father. They were Mormons in southern Utah.
Yeah.
And
well, actually, I know because Rejoice's family, my wife, she has a great-grandfather or grandfather. I think it's a grandfather. It's not that far back. Yeah. And he had 100 children.
Wow. How many wives?
I think 10.
10. Wow.
Or maybe 15. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But something like that. But probably around 10 wives, I'm guessing. But and that's like Africa, like in the 20th century, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
Like 1960.
Yeah.
So,
well, this was Utah, 1920.
1999.
No, 1920.
Okay, 1920. It's okay, but here's what I don't understand. You said how many relatives have you traced?
19,000.
Right, 19,000.
Yeah.
So why, out of all these relatives, did you gravitate to the ones in Brazil?
Just that we had the letters that were translated from German.
And where did these letters come from?
And they were from between one relative. See, I had a sister that went to America, and her brother and father, the Conrads, went to South America, to Brazil, and they wrote letters. The son, actually it was the son-in-law, wrote letters to my great-great-grandfather. And they went back and forth, and so we have those, and actually they have them down in Brazil too.
When you say we, where did these letters come from?
This
is your father gave it to you?
Yeah, my father did, but it was my German family. We have a farm up in North Dakota that we've had for 100 years, and so.
But you were born in Southern California.
I was. My dad was born in Iowa, but he went up to northern North Dakota, where my family originally migrated from Germany and Norway, in the central North Dakota, and they kind of raised their family and also a little bit in South Dakota. So my dad migrated after the war from Iowa, and my mom from Wisconsin to America. But yeah.
Okay. And so then, therefore, because you had these letters, you gravitated to these Brazilian migrants.
Yeah, I have a German cousin who got them translated from old German to modern German to English, and then I translated them to Portuguese. And so we went through and were able to locate them and send them the information. And they're big on genealogy. And actually, I'm going to be giving a talk next month to the Genealogical Society in Brazil on Brazilian German. They're big on tracing, and they gave me a lot of good information that I loaded in, and just a lot of my German relatives.
Okay, so but Sim, what do you say to somebody who says, "Who fucking cares?" I mean, like I was alluding to earlier. You can't control your ancestors, and you shouldn't be blamed or credited. I hate when they credit themselves. They're like, I come from the Mayflower. Like, well, that's okay, but you didn't do. Sorry, I'm going to go on a slight diatribe and tangent here. But there's a lot of people who say, I'm proud to be an American, or I'm proud to be Brazilian. I mean, I think you have all the right to be proud if you became a naturalized citizen. In other words, you migrated there. Like if I migrate to Germany and become a German, I could become very proud to be a German.
Right.
But if you're fucking born in Germany, you did absolutely nothing. And so therefore you shouldn't be proud of that. And similarly, if your ancestor was George Washington, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, you did nothing, so you shouldn't be proud of that. You shouldn't be proud of anything you did. You shouldn't be proud that you're tall. You shouldn't be proud that you're white or black or male, female. And yet so many people are proud. I'm not proud to be a woman. I'm proud to be black. I'm proud to be white. I'm proud to be whatever.
Yeah. I think the big thing for me is the connection and the place in history that, who am I? Where did I come from? And tracing it back, you go, okay, here's this human species, and part of me came from Germany, part of me came from Norway, from Switzerland, from Ireland, and going back and finding these people and when they were born, and then reading history and going, oh, this is what happened during Germany in the 1840s, and this is why people migrated out of Germany. Here's possible reasons, and here's and so it kind of puts yourself in the context of history, and helps me understand history a lot more, and also helps me connect with people in other places. Like I now have relatives in Norway that I'm going to visit, and we went to Germany and visited them, as well as Brazil, and it's just a neat, fun way to connect with people that you'd never. I mean, it's family. You're connecting all the time with people that you really don't have anything in common with.
Yeah, but you're like your sister.
Yeah, my sister. Yeah. So you get that connection out of whole different lifestyles but you have something in common. So.
Now, have you ever had, like, I imagine that sometimes you reach out to say, "Hey, you're my cousin." And they're like, "I don't care."
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of those. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Some people don't care. My son doesn't care. But I think at that age, and some people are suspicious and they say, "Oh, this is a scam." You're trying to get money.
Your son is like, "I don't care if you're my father."
No. It's he's at the age where
I'm your father.
He's building his life and he's building his career, and that's kind of the last thing on his mind. And at my age, I'm retired now, and so I can look back and I can try and connect the dots, and I have time and the money to do that. So, it's just natural at this age that people get more interested in that. And when you're young, you really don't care, and you're not that interested in family either until you're older. So it's a natural thing.
I wonder why that is.
I think it's just natural. I mean, it's just the time and the money. You're building a career. Who has time to look, at relatives, and they probably annoy you anyway.
Looking back at these 23andMe and all this other stuff, it's not the best one for genealogy, but it's the best one for health.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I found I had hereditary hemochromatosis, and from the genes, and then
I got to do with iron.
Yeah, okay, that means your iron
is low.
Your body doesn't give up iron, so you have to either give up blood or don't eat a lot of red meat or something. And my son has it, and my niece has it. So it's kind of nice to be alerted and go, I need to give blood, or I need to, watch this. So it's nice.
We'll talk more about health later, but tell me a little bit more about how this genealogy search has kind of changed you in any way in the last year. Because we're just in Brazil. Of course, you did so many other things, but has it changed the way you look at yourself or the way you look at the world? I guess. Just I think in putting myself in context with the world and where it is now and where we were in the past, personally,
I thought it helped, and just connecting with a lot of, like Brazil, they're fabulous people down there, and they're so much like us up here, but
better.
But better. Yeah. They don't think so, but they are better. No, we're both really good. And it makes me appreciate my German relatives here in the United States, and that German part of us that I really, you think, oh, this is American, and it is, but it's still, has German roots. We really intermarried a lot with other Germans, until recently. Now we're more open.
Has this changed your relationship with your own family, both above you and below you?
Mm-hmm.
Has it made any impact? Like your immediate family, your nuclear family?
Yeah, not quite yet. I mean, I've gone into my ex-wife's genealogy for my kids, and I've traced that back. And
she did a DNA test too?
No, my son did. But
okay.
but I have that information, and they're cousins to a couple of Union generals in the Civil War, which is really neat. Yeah. So I don't think it has. I don't think they really appreciate it yet. But it's kind of nice that you get that all up on the internet. It's on the website, so that when they do get interested and they do want to make that connection, it's up there and it's available. So not yet, but maybe when they get to my age, they'll appreciate it or like it.
Okay. Yeah. And tell us about, we'll go on a more personal subject. I know that you've got one daughter.
Yes.
And you have one son.
Yes.
The son I know a lot more about, mainly because he does things that interest me, like go up Mount Everest, and he's done the 7 summits.
7 summits, yeah, on each continent. The highest one on each continent.
Right. And things like that. But your daughter, I think she's like a model?
Yeah, she does modeling. Right now she's a Pilates, or the last I heard, she's a Pilates instructor for Equinox in Beverly Hills. And,
Tell us about, I know this is a tough subject for you, but, what is it? Because a lot of times people have the impression that, whenever I'm interviewing anybody, they all show the best sides of themselves and everything is like wonderful and everything, life is great and that kind of stuff. Your life is really great. That's no doubt about that. But your relationship with your daughter is strained. And why is that? Because I know you for a long time, and I just think you would be a great dad. Why is it, do you think, that your daughter doesn't connect with you?
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of started when she was 13, with puberty. And I always thought it would kind of, a couple years, 15 or 16, and it didn't, and 18, and it didn't.
And now 55.
And now she's 30, and she still hasn't. And I'm sure I could have handled things better, or done things better. But
like, what could have you done better? What do you think? Like, if you could play back the clock and try to do something different?
I think when she said, "Oh, she plays the victim and she plays the blame game," and rather, to me, it's silly, and I kind of laugh and I go, "Oh my God, that's just crazy." But I really shouldn't have done that. I should have been more open and go on. I'm really sorry you feel that way, and I'm sorry if I did anything that caused you to feel that way. And acknowledged her feelings, and I kind of just, was
toughen up.
Yeah,
you kind of gave her the tough
like,
love.
Come on, but don't play the victim, and don't, it's kind of through life. You play the victim, you're going to be the victim,
right?
And so I was more of that attitude, and I probably should have been more accepting.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to do. I think that maybe one way to help people who think of themselves as the victim and feeling sorry for themselves often is to take them on a trip to Central African Republic.
Exactly. You go, how bad do you have it? We're living a great life.
How about walk across Madagascar?
Get mugged 3 times.
Exactly, right. Did you get mugged 3 times?
Yeah, well, we did. I got once on my own, and then 2 with us. The stone. Remember, we got thrown. The stones.
Yeah, that's right. But they didn't actually mug successfully.
Well, Rejoice got her backpack ripped off.
Yeah, well, that's for sure.
With a machete.
Yeah. I don't remember if we told that story on our first podcast,
but lots of good stories.
Yeah, that's right. I think you told about somebody punching you on the beach, and then Rejoice getting her stuff stolen by these 2, the guy with the machete, and she was all alone in the woods, in the forest, in the jungle, actually.
Yeah.
And then the third time was this guy was, actually it was really the first time, was those guys throwing rocks at us, and
That was actually the scariest. I mean, it doesn't sound like much, but I thought we could have been in some hurt if the Seventh-day Adventists didn't come by and help us, save us.
Right on the motorcycle. They just on a deserted road, somehow a motorcycle came by and just broke up the fight there. Yeah, that was intense. And anyway, so any parental advice for? I mean, 'cause every child, imagine, is different. Some people would respond well to the tough love, and others may not. And who's to know? Even if in a parallel universe you had responded with sympathy, that maybe she'd still say, "Well, I hate you anyway."
Yeah.
It's possible.
You never know.
You don't know because we don't have. We have no easy access to parallel universes.
Yeah, there's some good books called on borderline personality disorder, which I think she suffers from.
What does that mean?
It means walking on eggs, that they're very sensitive and they play the blame game and the victimhood, and people are out to, kind of paranoid, I think. And so there's ways that you can, and actually I have a sister like that too. Of course, maybe it's me. I don't know. But from those books, there's certain ways, you want to listen to them and you want to acknowledge them and you want to keep things open and you don't want to, disregard them. And I think I disregarded them.
Yeah, I mean, I
don't have, a lot of times you think I don't have time for this. I don't, that right. I don't want to put toxicity into my life, and I probably should.
Right. Exactly. You don't want to bring yourself down by thinking, colluding with people, and you might think that you're actually stoking the fire.
It could be, yeah.
That if you reward them, quote unquote,
mm-hmm.
for their feeling sorry for themselves, then they will continue to feel sorry for themselves potentially.
It's hard. It's really hard.
So, I mean, I guess one idea is you just try one tactic and see if it makes any difference, and then you try a different tactic. If that doesn't make a difference, and then just keep trying different tactics to try to get themselves out of a rut.
Yeah.
But I subscribe to the same philosophy as you. I'm kind of a tough love, take responsibility with your life type of person.
Yeah.
I've always been that way. And it irks me, for example, I'm writing this book about Africa, that a lot of people put the entire continent as a victim.
Exactly.
And so my instinct is to push back on that notion and to say, well, yes, they've been dealt a tough set of cards, no question about it, but many people have and many nations have. Germany and Japan in 1945 had a real fucking tough, deal.
Yeah.
They were completely buried, and people make a big deal about the Marshall Plan and all this other stuff. Yeah, we helped them up. But the Marshall Plan, as I explained in the Hidden Europe, is actually a really small contribution. It's only a couple $1 billion in their economy, and it mainly went to just a few countries. It didn't go much to Germany. And so they really had to, as a nation, pull themselves together. And as individuals, we do the same thing. Some people, like Rejoice, for example, my wife, she was an orphan at the age of 14. She didn't have electricity or running water, and you look at her now. I mean, she's really pulled herself together. When she came to the United States, she didn't know how to minus or subtract or divide. Nothing.
Yeah.
And so I had to teach her all that at the age of 24 or whatever she was when I started teaching her basic math.
And she's just about to get her high school diploma here.
I mean,
and,
so she's
and go on.
Right. And so this is an example of people who've been victims. I mean, Rejoice, you could argue, certainly, as about as big of a victim as you can. She was an orphan. She was threatened with death because she was converting from Islam to Christianity. And it was a not a veiled threat. I talk about that in one of my TED Talks called The Black Sheep. Just look it.
Oh, great talk.
She really struggled in many ways, and yet she's pulled back. So whether you look at nations, groups, or individuals, there's plenty of examples of people who've been dealt a bad set of cards, and they take responsibility and say, you know what, only I or only me, this group can change this, and we got to pull ourselves together. So you got that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you and I are sitting here from privileged positions.
Mm-hmm.
We're both white males. We've both been born in California. We're both born in the top 2% on the planet, given education, all sorts of other blessings that really helped us. So it's easy for you and I to sit there on our nice, comfortable. Well, we're not that comfortable. It's kind of cold outside, but and to tell everybody, like, yeah, take a responsibility.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, fuck you. You've been privileged.
Yeah.
And so it's, and some people are really fucked up. I mean, they're mentally unstable, and they're just born that way. This man, who was a normal husband, started beating his wife out of nowhere. Like, he just started becoming super aggressive and eventually physically violent with her. And they finally took him into, like, do a PET scan or a brain scan or whatever, and they found a tumor in his head.
Yeah.
And they actually went and operated and took the tumor out of his head. And suddenly he was no longer violent and stuff like that. So when you say to him, let's say, or I say to him, hey, take responsibility, get control of your life, become a better person. It's all under your control.
May not be.
It may not be.
You're right. Yeah.
And so this guy literally had a physical thing that was, and your daughter, for example, just might have a chemical imbalance.
Exactly.
That makes her susceptible to becoming either victim or, victimhood, subscribing to that notion or whatever, self-defeating, that kind of stuff. And that a lot of times people, and I'm guilty of this too, they'll look at the homeless population. You're just hanging out with them in San Francisco.
I'm homeless myself.
Exactly right.
We'll get into that.
Right. And they'll go to San Francisco and they'll see all these homeless people and say, like, why can't they just get a job? I mean, Rejoice says that. Rejoice, my wife, she'll say, like, I don't understand. She's like, I came here with no high school diploma. I speak broken English, and I found myself getting a job.
Yeah.
And I did babysitting. I'm getting $23 an hour. And she's doing this. Why can't all these homeless people just get out there? She worked at Instacart for $15 an hour.
Yeah.
Just doing grocery stuff, getting shopping for. I mean, that was her first job out of here, and she got it within a month.
Yeah.
So she's just like very much a can-do. I'm going to work and I'm going to do this. So she's looking at these homeless people and people begging, or she looks at black people in America, and she's like, black people who are complaining about racism, holding them back, and all this other stuff, and then she says, like, well, I'm black. I'm blacker than them. She's really black.
Right.
And she's, as opposed to she looks at them and she sees them as brown. But anyway, so she'll be like, and yet, they're complaining about racism. She said, I don't feel that much racism. And even if I do, who cares? I'm pushing through it.
Right.
There's bad people all over the place.
Yeah.
You're going to let that all stop you? Anyway, so.
But like Pope Francis says, who am I to judge?
Right. Okay, let's keep judging. Okay, so let's continue on. We're really digressing here. After Brazil,
it was interesting.
What were you doing in February, March, in this time frame, or April?
I flew up to Germany, and I met my sister and cousin, and we did a tour around there to look up my German relatives along the Rhine. And that was fun.
So this has been the year of genealogy.
Genealogy, yeah. And then I flew back to New Mexico and continued on the Continental Divide Trail. I'd done about a third of it, so I was doing another third.
What third had you done, and what third did you do?
I did the first part of New Mexico and part of Colorado, and last year, and then this year.
Why didn't you just do all of New Mexico in one shot instead of doing half of New Mexico, half of Colorado?
Oh, my mom was dying, so I had to take off, and I helped take care of her for 3 weeks. It was nice. 4 of my siblings came in, and we all pitched in and helped her.
And your mom was how old?
She was 93. Yeah. She lived a good life, and it was a nice thing for all of us to come together in hospice. So I had to cut it short, and then I came back, and we had a few family reunions. So and it's kind of nice to take a break, too.
Yeah, exactly. Get those legs back.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
Yeah, so I came back and did that, and met my girlfriend Patty for a trip up to Ashland. We always do the Ashland plays, Shakespeare plays, and went up to Stratford up in Ontario and did that. And we also did, I'm trying to think, I think it was last year. Yeah, we did the Rocky Mountaineer. We took the train from Vancouver up to Jasper.
Wow, that must have been nice.
And that was fabulous, yeah. And then
it's a lot easier than hiking the trail.
Yeah, I know.
Hiking that distance along the, what is that? I don't know, the Pacific Northwest Trail.
Yeah,
who knows where that goes.
And then we were going to spend a month in the Chesapeake Bay and tour around there. And unfortunately, my girlfriend, her her boss, she works for a dentist, and he was murdered by his husband. And so it was pretty traumatic. So she wasn't able to join with me in the Chesapeake by Washington, D.C.
Wow. How did he murder?
Sorry,
I'm a big forensic guy, so I always like to know.
I think it was an abuse thing, and I'm not sure exactly how, but I guess there was some physical restraint or something going on, or maybe, I don't know. But anyway, he kind of confessed, and so he's in jail now, but it kind of turned her life upside down for a little bit. So
wow.
Yeah, so but she's okay now.
She's still working at the same place?
Yeah, yes, another dentist is taking it over.
Wow.
So, but she was working like 6 hours a week, so 4 to 6 hours a week. So, but we just went to Las Vegas with her daughter and son-in-law, and we did the rock and roll marathon for doing 5K. It was easy, but it was fun. We had a good time, saw some shows.
And then, how did you wrap up the year? I mean, I know we just saw each other last night, but what was the?
Yeah, it was Las Vegas. I've been visiting a lot of relatives that I hadn't seen, a number of cousins that I hadn't seen in like 40 years, and so at my age, I'm seeing friends. Grade school friends that I hadn't seen, and cousins, and we had a couple family reunions down in San Diego for around Thanksgiving, and just invite everybody in. And we were going through all my mom's memorabilia to try and sort through that and figure out what to do with it, and scanning a lot of that. And so it's mainly connecting with family and friends, and then going off and doing physical things like hiking and connecting with the relatives in Brazil.
Is this year, when you did the Continental Divide Trail, you've done more than half of it?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's probably about 60%.
Right, and so all that's left is Wyoming, northern part of Colorado, and parts of Idaho, and little bits of Montana.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are going to be nice, and so you hope to finish that in 2020?
Yeah. That's my goal.
And just do it in one big shot.
And maybe if I have time to continue on the Great Divide Trail that goes from the Canadian border up past Jasper.
But to do that, you really would need to, and I don't know. That's going to be hard to, because by the time you finish, it's going to be near the end of the hiking season, especially up in north.
Yeah.
So it's my guess is you're going to finish, let's say, in September maybe. I don't know. It depends on how hard you push it.
Yeah.
So, therefore, by September, October, already up in the Great Divide Trail, it starts getting tougher conditions.
And actually, this year, July, it was all snowed in.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I'm assuming that you're going to start in Colorado. Well, where are you going to start? You're going to start in
I'm
Wyoming?
going to start in Rawlins. And I'm
Rawlins,
hopefully in April, and then hike north from Rawlins.
That nice flat,
no snow. And then hopefully later in the year, maybe July or August, then I'll go back to Colorado and finish that up.
Right.
And then
hike north again.
Yeah,
I mean, not hike, but bus it north.
Yeah.
To go to do the Idaho Glacier. And go south.
And then from Glacier go north, and
to the Great Divide.
Yeah, and do the.
Oh, so when you're going to do Rawlins, you're going to go all the way up to Montana.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're going to get that whole section done.
Yeah.
And then go down to Colorado.
Yeah.
And then, if you still have time, bus it all the way up to Glacier and then go north.
Right.
Until the snow starts coming.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. No, that sounds like an amazing plan.
Yeah.
No, you have a chance of. It'll be just tough, but it depends on your pacing.
Yeah.
But you can do it. Let's talk a little bit about your way of life. You have a girlfriend, Patty, who lives in Southern California.
San Diego,
right? And how is it managing that? Because in a 12-month period, do you spend maybe 2 months with her? How many months?
Probably about 2 to 3 months together. But usually I'll travel for 2 to 3 months, and then I'll be with her for a month or 6 weeks at a time. Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't mention we went to southern Spain and Morocco.
Oh, right. Yeah. And that's where you saw Scott.
Scott
Williams.
Saw Scott. Yeah.
Scott Williams.
And hiked the Camino.
Right.
We did part of the Camino, and I did the French way.
You know this is a busy life when you can't remember like minor things that Sim did. Oh, by the way, I hiked the Camino Santiago, which is like for some people their life goal.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. I mean, you're saying I was saying I'm homeless and I don't have a car.
And you're a loser.
I'm a loser, yeah.
And an asshole.
That's true. So I've got lots of time to do this. I'm not sitting at home watching TV. So, I'm always moving, and I take time off to rest and relax. But it's like I don't have to spend the time watching TV or getting oriented or mowing the lawn or doing the hedges or things like that. It's kind of like, okay, I can just schedule things out and hit the relatives and do the travel, and it doesn't cost that much money because I'm not paying rent and I'm not paying for car and insurance and all that stuff. So I thought I'd be tired of it by now, but I'm just really loving the heck out of it.
That's the same thing. A lot of people say that, hey, aren't you going to get tired of all this travel bullshit? I'm like, so far, not yet.
Yeah, I know.
Just keep doing it. So, but that brings up the longevity issue or
Yes.
the sustainability issue that a lot of people must question you on is like, dude, you're like 67 years old. You're an old fart. And like, how much longer can you keep this up? What's the larger game plan?
Yeah.
Your mother lived to 93.
Right.
And so how do you answer that question?
Yeah, I'm sure this is going to change if grandkids come, and then I'll be focused on them a bit more. So I may settle down a little bit, or at least get a place for a couple months near where they are. But in the meantime, this hiking and stuff, it really helps keep you in shape. And eating right, I mean, health-wise, that's so fundamental to longevity and then having a good lifestyle. So, having a healthy lifestyle, the eating right and exercising and the social thing, being connected with people is so important. And, the clean air and, all that's really important. So I think this, and also the intellectual thing. I mean, I'm able to have time to read a lot of books and your podcasts and podcasts. Mm-hmm. It's stimulating. I'm not vegging out on TV, on the couch watching TV all the time. So I feel I'm, really staying involved, and I'm meeting a lot of new people and, a lot of family. So I think that feeds into longevity. Staying connected is huge.
Right. Right. And yeah, you're doing everything right. And so I don't even understand the point of the question that some people wonder. It's like, okay, well, we're all more or less, every one of us is doing something in their lives until like it becomes painful or difficult, or they find something that's more attractive. I mean, we all do that. I mean, you might be staying at a job or career or raising kids or doing something. That's your stage of your life, and then you come to another stage. And so why don't they just accept that Sim's right now in his 60s doing this stage of his life, and maybe it will change in the 70s, but maybe not. But certainly you're doing all the right things to allow yourself to physically and mentally continue this for at least another decade.
Exactly. Yeah. Excuse me, I'm ready to change, if I need to change.
Right, and you'll do that when you feel that way.
Yeah, this is fun.
As long as you can afford it, and as long as your alimony payments or whatever they are.
Yeah, spousal support finishes in May, coming up after
We're going to have a big
years.
Party. We're going to have a big party.
9 years, man. Well worth it. Went to a good cause. Yes. In case my ex-wife is listening.
Exactly. But that spousal support, did she get married again, or what happened?
No.
Okay. So that would have stopped had she gotten married.
No, it would have kept going.
Really?
Yeah.
So how does it stop? Just time?
Time. Yeah. We just set a certain time, and
does every divorce set a different time?
It depends on what you arrange, what you worked out, and this is what we worked out.
Okay, but I mean, what's the median? Like, is there a relationship? Like, if you've been married for 4 years, spousal support lasts for 4 years. You've been married for 9 years. It's 9 years of spousal support. I mean, I have no idea how.
Yeah, after 10 years, then you can pay spousal support. She came in with a lot of money, so I felt like I should reimburse her for a lot of that.
I see.
We lived at a pretty good lifestyle. So
you were married more than 10 years.
28 years.
28 years. So therefore, the spousal support issue kicked in.
Yeah, and
weird.
It's something we worked out. It's nothing legal, and it's beyond what was legal, but I felt obligated.
So you felt that because she had come on with more money than you had.
Yeah.
So, like, would Melania Trump like be supporting Donald Trump when they divorce. After
It could be after we look at his taxes.
I mean, just like it's such an interesting way of looking at it, and certainly logically defensible to say, okay, well, Melania Trump lived a good life. Trump brought a lot more money to the table, I suppose. I mean, we don't know his taxes, but assuming that he brought a lot of money to the table, and then so if they get divorced, then Melania will have to pay for Trump.
That's right. You never know.
I mean, some people would say, look at that and say, that's so perverse. What the hell? She should be milking him. And usually, like Jeff Bezos just divorced and have to give his wife like $70 billion or whatever it is.
Well, I look at it that it's a team effort. So, if she was in on the marriage and helped support it and he made that money during that time.
But did she demand that? Did she demand that?
No, we just worked out and we said, here's our assets.
Like, but who was the first person who came up with that idea? Did you say, hey, I'd like to give you some money?
No, it's our money. It's not mine. It's ours. And so, by law, it's California, it's a community state and half of it's hers. And, I just made sure it was, it's not like I'm giving her the money. It's like, here's her portion of it. So, yeah. So she got rightfully what she was hers, and then I felt there was additional, for the kids' education, I gave her a bunch of money, and then she's very good with with managing things for the kids, and so. Oh,
so it's not just spousal support; it's also kid support.
Yeah, it's
embedded in that?
Education. We promised to pay their college education.
Okay, so it's not really spousal support in the sense that it's not. The money was meant, part of it at least, to go to help the kids.
Right. Yeah, a little bit of it, yeah.
Oh, a little bit,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So they don't break it out and say, okay, this is the kid money and this is the spousal money?
We kind of did.
You did?
We knew how much. And,
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it was up to her how she ended up moving to Oregon so she could get the lower tuition, but, that's...
Get back to, I just want to talk a little bit more about, your way of life and some of the common criticisms that you've heard and kind of feedback that you would like to tell other people listening to this and say, okay, this is my take on my way of life. Things, maybe misconceptions. Anything else that you would like to share about that?
Sometimes I hear people that get involved with their communities and that are doing volunteer work and, serve on boards and, build that community effort. And I miss that. I don't get that. And also things that come up in, concerts and plays in a certain community that you're aware of. A lot of times when I'm traveling, I miss those. A concert comes up and I guess I can go there and see it. But sometimes the timing doesn't work out. And, and I try and plan things out like 9 months ahead of time. And so sometimes I miss out on that. So that's something you miss out on.
But you're also traveling to, let's say, Ashland, Oregon, and you're going there specifically to see a performance that you would have missed had you sat your ass in San Francisco.
Exactly. Yeah. I get a lot of opportunities. My cousin had his 75th birthday in party in North Dakota, and I go, okay, I'm going to go do that. So I took the train from Glacier and went to that. Yeah, so you have, it's not like you're stuck at home and you go, oh, I'd rather watch TV, It's like, oh yeah, I can go to that. But on the other hand, you miss out on that community. I don't know how much people get involved with their cities and towns and their neighborhood. Most of us are kind of isolated anyway. But for those who are connected, then you're not as connected when you have my lifestyle.
Right. What about health? We talked a lot about health, and when we did our first podcast together. But I think one of the things that you and I have debated a few times, and I think it's worth revisiting, is this notion that living a long life, once you become a centenarian, you're in many ways your quality of life can decrease.
Yes.
And it's like an old car. Eventually, little parts stop functioning, and you break down one part. Versus the 55-year-old who just gets a heart attack and just dies. Boom.
Right.
One day he seemed more or less normal. Maybe he was fat or but all of a sudden, boom, he just keels over. Versus the centenarian, the guy who's 105, who's been more or less quote unquote dying for 10 years.
Maybe. I mean, maybe he was super active until he's 104.5 and then dies suddenly.
But that's
my goal.
No, I know that's your goal. I know.
Yeah.
But that's everybody's goal. Everybody
Yeah.
would like to have like I don't know about everybody, but some people would probably want to have at least a week's warning. But you know, but most people I think want a kind of a quick death. Nobody sits there and says, "I would really love to like have like a 20-year drawn out cancer."
I don't mind dying. I just don't want to be there when it happens, as Woody Allen says.
Yeah. Exactly. But I mean, I guess I hear what you're saying, but I just think that if you look at most centenarians, they all have multiple problems, physical ailments, and often mental ailments. I remember reading a statistic that 50% of people who are over 80 years old have Alzheimer's or some sort of dementia.
Right.
50%, dude.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I'm with you. I'm doing everything I can to stay healthy and live as long as I can. Healthy living can kind of like increase your odds. I guess that's what it comes down to.
I think that's it. It increases your odds, and you're trying to avoid the chronic diseases and things like heart disease and Alzheimer's and diabetes and cancer. All of those, I think, are health diseases that are largely influenced by your lifestyle. And so if you can avoid those and do things that will lower your probabilities of getting that, then you have more chance of, you slowly decay and it slowly goes out. Although some people like Ray Kurzweil, he reckons the technology with nanobots and various technology is increasing, and that'll get better. So he reckons if you live to the year 2050, there's a possibility you could live forever. So
now, by the way, he's your age, isn't he?
Yeah.
And I think he's the director of Google. So you guys are on the same kind of... But I think you're going to actually outlive Ray
Is that
Kurzweil.
right?
Yeah. No, because, I mean,
He's
Ray is like
smoking
stressing out. No, he's just sitting at Google and working his ass off in an air-conditioned office. And, versus you're out breathing fresh air in the great outdoors, eating probably a much healthier diet than he is.
Maybe.
He does take 200 pills every day.
I have concerns about that. But
so what are those concerns? How many pills do you take a day?
I don't take any.
Really?
And very rarely.
Not even a fucking multivitamin?
Very rarely do I take a multivitamin. When I'm hiking, sometimes I'll take B12. I try to go healthy vegan, and so sometimes I'll take a B12 and sometimes a multivitamin, but very rarely. And so generally I don't take any pills, and it's just pretty much, natural food. I don't do the oils and bread and rice and potatoes, not much. And... just try and eat whole foods. And so far it's worked.
But, Sim, look, my position is more that vitamins, there have been studies that show that there's some benefits, that taking supplements have benefits. But there's also studies that show that it's basically expensive piss water.
Yeah.
You just piss it all away. And if anything, maybe you stress your kidneys because they got to process some of this shit. But there's few studies that, unless you completely overdose on the recommended levels, that say that vitamins are bad for you. In other words, that taking a lot of vitamins and taking this expensive, pills, multivitamins, all that stuff, are bad for you. So there's some studies that say it's good, some studies that say it makes no difference, but I don't know of that many studies that say you're actually doing detrimental. You're hurting your body.
Yeah, I think it depends. If you have a deficiency, then it's really important to get those vitamins, and synthetic ones are okay. But, if I feel deficient, then I think it's important to do that.
But what if you're not? I mean, in other words, what's the downside of taking multivitamins or maybe 10 different vitamins?
Well, like you said, there's studies that show that if you overdose in certain vitamins, then, vitamin A, that increases cancer for people who smoke.
But you have to take so much. I mean, oftentimes these tests are like giving it to a lab rat, and they're giving him like 20,000% more than he really needs.
So if you're taking 200 pills a day, you're bound to be overdosing on something.
Probably.
And it's kind of better, to me, it's better just to get the nutrition from the whole foods that we've, evolved with over the years.
I'm realizing something, Sim, is that I'm struggling to convince you on this issue. So I think
use your.
I need to use
my
my final argument, my headlock. I'm going to put you in a headlock right now, and this is the argument that's going to win you over. You are a fucking asshole. That's it.
You win.
Yeah, exactly.
I lost again. Damn.
Whenever I've got an argument with Sim, I use him in this kind of mental headlock. It's you're a fucking asshole. You're stupid idiot. And this just like wins. I got you.
You win again.
Surrender, see? So that's it. There you go. So, folks, if you're listening, this is in the future. If you ever need to win an argument with your spouse, or your boss, just say, you know what? You're a fucking asshole. And then all of a sudden they're going to surrender just as easily as Sim just did. So there you have it there, guys. Take all the vitamins you want. So says Sim, because he just realized that I'm right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but really, come on. What if Ray Kurzweil's right? I mean, he's smarter than you.
Yeah.
I mean, right? So he might be actually. I mean, he's not going to be doing detriment. The guy wants to live forever.
He could be doing detriment if he's doing 200
No,
pills.
I didn't say he can't be doing detriment. It's like he wouldn't be doing it if he thought that he was hurting himself.
Right. But
he studied this subject.
Logically, you think if you take 200 pills and they're concentrated, I mean, there's side effects to everything you take. And so I would think that I would just think there's a probability that you may be doing harm, and that it's better probability to only take medicine or supplements if you really need it. If you have a deficiency, then it's and you can't supplement it a natural way. Go for it.
And vegans often have a deficiency in B12.
B12, yeah. So sometimes I'll take B12. Sometimes I'll have some sardines, and sometimes eggs. And sometimes for cultural experience, then I'll make exceptions. I'm not real strict, but generally I'll try and go vegan. Whole foods. Yeah.
Right.
So,
so your diet hasn't evolved in the last year, has it? It's more or less you're still more or less changed, or have you got any new insights?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, it hasn't changed that much.
Okay.
Travel. I can accommodate it. It's amazing. Any place, any restaurant, they always have great options, and the sides are just fabulous. Yeah.
What about with your? I've been looking into annuities.
Yeah.
And I just think that we haven't had inflation since the 1970s in the United States, any serious inflation. And it just seems to me, I think you have an annuity that does not adjust to inflation because they're very expensive.
It increases 3% a year, but not to inflation.
It doesn't, it's not tagged to
not
inflation.
Tagged,
right,
no.
right, or
no,
whatever it's
you're
called,
right.
indexed to inflation.
Yeah.
Because I just think that we're bound in the next, between now and the year 2050, to have an inflation cycle, because that's what happens in history, in monetary history. It just happens, especially in the United States and almost every country. And so, do you worry about that at all?
Yeah, that's a concern. Since I bought it, the inflation's been very stable.
Of course,
and
it's been stable since the 1970s.
Yeah. So all of that, I'm making a really good return. Based on any other investments, any stable investments, like treasuries or something like that. So, I mean, it could happen, and then you take a hit for it at the time. But in the meantime, if we go for another 10 or 20 years at steady inflation, and then all of a sudden we get a high inflation, then you pay the price. But in the meantime, it's an average over the years, and no matter what you invest in, stock market or treasuries or bonds or whatever, it's all there's always a risk.
Of course.
So this is the risk I decided to take.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So and it's too late to change.
Right.
Once you sign the dotted line, it's kind of like you're fixed?
Yeah. I got it fixed, 10 years ago?
Okay.
So when I was 50, I bought it, and I don't get it until I'm 70, so 3 more years.
Oh, so you don't even have any income right now from that?
Nothing from that. Yeah. So, But when I'm 70, then it kicks
in. So where
in.
are you making the money to do some of these trips?
I have a pension, and then my ex-wife just turned me on to Social Security, where I can get half of her Social Security until I'm 70, and then I get my full Social Security, and then she gets half of mine when she turns 66. So, when she hits full retirement. So they discontinued it, but it's still for people who were born before 1954, then you can still do it. So, sorry. Yeah.
Now, let's talk a little bit more about the dark sides of your way of life. You kind of alluded it to a little bit because, you can't volunteer to organizations because you're often moving around, so you can only do maybe just random events and volunteer for a short event. So there's that. And then you mentioned that if there's a play or stuff like that, but what other downsides? I imagine like maybe forming bonds with a certain small group of people who regularly see each other, because that's another issue. I mean, you and I we would probably hang out much more with each other if you lived nearby, but we just don't. So you just drop in here every once in a while, and then I see you, but you don't have that kind of commonality, except for, I suppose, your girlfriend. But even your girlfriend, you only see her once.
About once every 2 or 3 months.
Right,
yeah.
Right. So is that another downside, I suppose?
Well, with my girlfriend, she and I both love that relationship because it's Disneyland, honeymoon every time we meet. And so she's got her own life. She has 5 grandkids. And when I'm with her, I try to do exactly what she wants to do. And then when she leaves, then I do everything else that I would have wanted to do.
Right.
So it's great for her, and I really enjoy it for myself. But you're right. We're not. I try and schedule like the months of November and December to hit California, and visit friends and relatives. Then, in these areas. So you're right. I don't get to see them throughout the year. It's not like every day or every week I visit with people. So. But I'm happy. You kind of you get your fill of people, and then you go off and do your thing, and then you get to see them again, and it's all nice because you get to catch up on their lives and what they've been doing.
Yeah, but what about the side of you and a lot of people, especially women, who tend to really love to create a home environment?
Yes.
But even men, of course, do it too. And I'm guilty of it too. Sometimes part of me would love to just have like a home base. I use my mom's house as a home base, effectively. Much to her chagrin. But do you sometimes miss having just a simple crash pad? You could easily spend like $10,000 and just buy a little crash pad somewhere in like some cheap third world country.
Yeah.
But you feel like that would then just be a storage unit for your shit.
Yeah. And I had one for about 3 years, and I was never there. I had a place, and I had all my stuff.
San Leandro?
San Ramon.
San Ramon, yeah.
Yeah, and I had all my stuff in there, and I wasn't there, and I never used the stuff, and so I finally told my landlord, I said, here's all my stuff, you can sell it and get them. It was probably $10,000, and I said, here it all is, and I just packed everything in. I have like 2 small suitcases, and 2 backpacks and a bicycle. And
you have a bicycle?
Yeah.
You have a bicycle now?
Yeah, my
you get it at Patty's List?
It's at Patty's. My ex-wife got a new Lexus, and I got a new bicycle, $5,000 one.
Wow! What is it, a mountain bike or is it a hybrid?
It's a street bike, steel lugged and a long distance.
Steel? It's not carbon fiber or whatever.
Yeah.
$5,000 doesn't get you carbon fiber?
No, I got the steel, and
it's
more comfortable.
Oh.
And it doesn't break,
so carbon fiber has the penalty of potentially breaking?
Yeah, it's not...
It's stiff.
And stiff. It's lighter, but it's stiffer, it's less comfortable. I rode it across the America.
That same
2014,
one.
yeah.
But you haven't used it much since?
Not recently.
Because it's kind of parked at her house.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, not recently.
Okay,
but I want to take there's a bicycle ride across Canada. It goes from Vancouver up to the Arctic and then back down across to Newfoundland.
Wow.
And so I want to do that.
That's going to be intense.
Yeah.
How far north does it go?
Up to the Arctic.
No kidding.
Yeah, Beaufort.
That's farther
Sea.
than going across the United States.
Yeah, 15,000 miles and there's not supposed to be any cars on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you would think that you would need a mountain bike because it's not all paved.
Right. I think it's there's gravel roads, but I don't think you need a mountain bike. It's not a
hybrid might be, or just thicker tires.
Thicker tires is what I'll get.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
And that's got to be fun because then you're getting up to the Arctic when it's like no night.
Yeah.
So you could theoretically, physically
24
it's hard.
hours.
Yeah, you could just like bike. I remember this one people who did 1,000 kilometers in the Arctic walking with no resupply.
Wow.
It was Mr. Dr. Ryan of the backpackinglight.com.
Oh, yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
And Dr. Ryan went there with 2 other guys, and they were trying to do an experiment, like how far could a human being walk with no resupply?
Wow.
And the goal was to get to 1,000 kilometers. And he didn't break. I don't know if he broke it, but anyway, he twisted his ankle, and he was out after like maybe 100, 200 kilometers. Another guy keeled over around maybe 500, 600. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on the statistic.
Wow.
But one dude, his name is Ronan, he did the 1,000 kilometers with no resupply.
Wow.
And over just wild country.
Yeah.
I think they searched around looking for the most remote place in the United States, and it was in Alaska somewhere. Here's the point of the story is that their strategy was interesting because they went during June when the sun basically doesn't set.
Yeah.
To minimize their weight, they would hike during the night. So they would hike which were the cool hours.
Yeah.
The coldest time period. So from 10 p.m. or whatever until like, I don't know.
Oh,
9,
yeah. That's
right?
a good idea.
And then they would sleep during the warm hours, so therefore they could take a lighter sleeping bag.
Yeah, or quilt.
Yeah, just quilt, right. And therefore minimize the amount of warm clothes that they had to bring because they would be sleeping in the warmest time of day and hiking during the coldest time of day. And since it's day all the time, they maximize. It was very brilliant.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great strategy.
What a good idea.
So therefore, but probably your bike ride is a structured one. Imagine with resupply points. It's not just like random people just doing this. It's an organized trip.
Oh, no. I would do it by myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So it's totally.
And I'd probably meet people on the way.
Okay, so got it. Okay, so it's like.
Yeah.
It's not an organized, because when you biked across America, it was organized.
It was organized. Yeah,
right,
that was easy.
Right. So this one will be a lot more intense.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to figure out the resupply places.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I'll just load up with nuts and seeds and then make it to the next motel and or camping
right,
places.
But you just got to make sure that there's resupply points. But I imagine with a bike it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can go a lot farther.
You can go a lot farther, but and even if the next village is 400 kilometers apart,
not a big deal.
As long as you've got 4 days of food,
you
could easily make it.
Yeah.
As long as the terrain is not that hilly, and it's pretty flat up in northern Canada, I think.
Yeah.
But
and where the roads go, it's
always
not too bad.
relatively easy. But still, it's not going to be okay. So is that your 2020 plan?
No, that's probably 2022.
Wow. Okay, so let's talk about this.
Yeah, 2020. I want to finish the Continental Divide Trail, and go down to Brazil and go to Germany. And I have relatives now in Norway that I want to visit, so I'll head over there. And we're going to do a Midwest tour. Patty's never seen like Mount Rushmore and Yellowstone and stuff like that. We're renting a car in Salt Lake City and doing.
I've not seen Mount Rushmore.
Yeah,
either,
it's awesome.
Sure.
Yeah.
I want to see that dude, the Indian dude.
Indian, yeah.
What's his name?
Crazy Horse.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just rode by there a couple months ago.
But you saw it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the next year, my sister spent 15 years in southern China, and with her kids, they were missionaries, and then they were in Thailand for 5 years, and now they're in Taiwan for the last 5 years. And so I want to take them back to where they grew up, and they were fluent in Chinese. And so I want to do southern China with them, and then also Cambodia and Vietnam, and then meet Patty in Japan and spend a couple months there with her, and then head over to do more of China and take the Mongolian Express, up to Russia and take the Trans-Siberian Express to Moscow, and then follow your stead and hit Eastern Europe and work my way down through Croatia and to Greece and meet Patty down there. And then I want to do the Croatian Trail.
I don't even know about it.
Yeah.
Where, does it go along the coast or along the mountains?
I don't know. I think it's along the mountains.
Okay.
Guthook has an app for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that I always follow the Guthook stuff.
Although Nancy Huber was complaining about how poor it was for the Pacific Northwest Trail.
Yeah.
But maybe the Croatian Trail is a bit more
Yeah, he was
up-to-date.
great on the CDT, Continental Divide
sure.
Trail, and then also the Camino de Santiago.
Is the CDT, since you did it far more recently than I have, is it getting crowded? I mean, I shouldn't say crowded, but in other words, is it up to 200 people a year? 300?
Yeah, I think maybe 300 or 400.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
but
it's
it wasn't crowded at all.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But
300 people over 3,000 miles
yeah,
is
a lot more on the Colorado Trail that we're hiking.
Yeah.
But no, it was.
Although I didn't see in all of the state of Colorado, I only saw 2 snowmobilers and 2 skiers.
Oh, is that right?
Because I went through May, the month of May.
What about coming back?
Oh, you're right. Yeah, on the way back, I was coming through in September. And so there wasn't a whole ton of people either.
Oh, not either.
Yeah,
okay.
Not in September, because it starts to get pretty cold in September in the Colorado mountains.
Yeah, when I hit it, there was a lot of kids from college that were doing the hike. It's kind of, okay, now I know I'm going to do the hike, and then I go back to school.
July, August?
I think it was September.
Oh, okay, September.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, something like
I don't remember seeing a whole lot of people because I was there in September and I had to get out. I was aiming to get out by October 1st, and I think I did.
Wow.
Anyway.
I think of you when I go on that hike. I think, man, to go up and then come back in the same season, man.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I can barely do it in 3 years.
In one way.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just thought of a crazy thing about China.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen to China? Do you think because they are a fascinating country, because I don't think we've ever had a country that has such a high GDP per capita. Not that it's that high, but anyway, it's getting high.
It is getting high.
It's getting high GDP per capita, but that is still not a democracy.
Right.
Like a true democracy.
Yeah.
Usually what happens is as they climb up the GDP per capita ladder, they convert at some point into a democracy. And yet China has not done this. So what do you think is going to happen in this 2020s? Do you think they're going to have... Because right now, as we're recording this, I think there's still protests in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
But do you think it's going to devolve, or do you think they're just going to stay as they more or less are?
I guess it's a hope, but I'm thinking the pressure from Hong Kong and then Taiwan too, if they want to integrate those two into China, that China's going to have to evolve and become more open and more democratic. I mean, and I think the liberal democracies, I think they can be more successful because they can evolve better. I mean, China's been really lucky in that their dictatorship has kind of pointed them in the right direction economically. But I think as they get more challenges and they need to get more people, that are backing the changes that occur, I'm thinking that they have to go more democratic and think about what people want rather than, the dictators. How long are they going to be able to keep making good decisions? I mean, they're kind of screwing up with the Uyghurs, and
the what?
The Uyghurs over in in Western China. They've
like Tibet,
imprisoned, or north of Tibet.
Okay,
they imprisoned like 1 million Uyghurs.
Oh, I haven't even followed that at all.
UGHER.
If it's not in Africa, I'm not interested.
Yeah, so there's, I don't know. I meet a lot of the Chinese travelers, and the ones I meet are kind of sad that they don't have freedom of speech, and they don't have a real democracy. So, but it's nice they're sad, and it's nice they're able to travel and see other parts. But
did you say it's nice that they're sad?
Yeah, that they wish that they had a better a democracy, and they wish that they could speak freely.
So you think it might happen?
I think so. Yeah. Of course, I think it might happen that we could go the other way, So, and which, some cases it seems like that. So, we could go either way, but I hope we don't.
So it's December 2019. What's your prediction of who's going to win the nomination for the Democratic Party and who's then going to win the November election? So we're nearly a year away, and you're going to make a prediction here.
Oh, my
Who's
God.
going to win the nomination? Not who you want to win.
Okay.
We can talk about that later, but who do you think is going to actually get the
probability right now, I would think Biden, and I'm thinking Biden. Just probabilities.
Okay, so that's who you think is going to win the nomination. Okay, and then assuming you're right, which of course you're never right.
I lost big time in the last election.
Right, and so did I. Spectacularly wrong.
I've got 5 cents with your mom.
Wait,
might win.
That's right. No, but you made a prediction. Like, how wrong were you in the?
I was horrible.
Like in 2016
I think
election?
we did percentages. I did 10%.
You thought that 10% of the electoral votes, or of the popular vote?
Yeah, would go to Trump.
Was it the popular or the electoral vote? I can't remember what we said.
Probably popular.
But you said 10%. I told you you're mad. But you're crazy. But I think I said 30?
Yeah, something like
35?
that. 20 or 30.
And then I think Scott Williamson, our other buddy, said Scott Williams, said 40%.
Something 30 or 40. Yeah,
but he still said he was going to lose. But he
won.
the highest. Yeah. but we were all three of us were wrong.
Yeah,
but he was the least wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, but you were the most wrong. So I don't even know
So
why I'm asking for your fucking advice.
That's because I'm an asshole.
Exactly, because you're an asshole. But seriously, so you think that Biden's going to win and the nomination, and then when he goes head-to-head against Trump, do you actually think he's going to win?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then by what percentages now?
I don't know. I don't know.
How much of the electoral vote will he get?
Well, if they release Trump's taxes,
which won't happen.
I don't know. I'm hoping, but
hope is not.
I know
is not a prediction.
Yeah, I'd say 60% goes to Biden.
Okay, 60% of the electoral vote.
Yeah, I'll say electoral.
Electoral, because definitely not 60% of the popular vote. I don't think is going to go, because most elections don't get above much higher. Most winners in the popular vote are in the 50s. I think for many decades now.
Yeah,
I could be wrong about that, but I think if you look at all the elections in the last 50 years, the winner in the popular vote doesn't go above 60.
Yeah,
I think I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, no,
but
Clinton was what? 55?
Well, Clinton once ran against 3 people, so I think he won only like 40%.
No, I mean Mrs. Clinton.
Oh, that Clinton.
She
Sorry.
got 50.
54,
55.
Yeah, well, she won the popular vote, yeah. But anyway, okay, so now who do you want to win the nomination?
I think my favorite is Cory Booker.
Okay.
And or Amy Klobuchar.
Okay.
But I can go with either one of those.
Amy Klobuchar just bores me.
Yeah, anybody but.
They made a Saturday Night Live skit about her.
Oh, is that right?
Like, she has this strange mannerism.
Oh,
so that's the only
does.
thing I've ever seen. I've only seen the actor playing Amy Klobuchar.
Okay.
I've actually heard her speak. Anyway, okay, cool. Yeah. And then, so, all right, interesting. I'm predicting that Buttigieg.
Oh, Buttigieg
is going to win, and the reason I'm predicting that he's going to win, not only the nomination but actually, is that I'm basing my theory on kind of the mirror images thing, and so. We often pick presidents that we go through cycles. We like one type of president, and then the country goes and picks almost like the mirror image of that president later.
Yeah.
So you have, I think I told you this last night, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, but for those who are not listening, it's just like you had Eisenhower, and then you get John F. Kennedy.
Yeah.
I think
old to young.
Yeah. And then you go from John F. Kennedy to Nixon, right?
Or Johnson to Nixon.
Yeah, sorry, Johnson, Nixon. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then Nixon, you go to Carter. So you go from
Ford.
the crook.
Yeah.
Okay, but Ford wasn't elected.
Yeah. But Republican to Democrat.
But I mean, I'm just thinking like the nation picked. They said, okay, they associated Ford with the corrupt thing, so they picked the most honest, do-gooding guy possible, which was Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
And then Jimmy Carter, we go to a movie star.
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
And then, then in that case, it was kind of breaks the theory because Bush wasn't. He's kind of boring, but I mean Bush Senior.
Yeah.
And then
But he only lasted one
term, and then we go pick Clinton, Bill.
Yeah.
and then
Young Guy Democrat.
Yeah, Young Guy Democrat, right? And then we go to a mirror image of Bill, which is kind of like George Jr.
Jr. Yeah.
Who's kind of like Bill Clinton was very sharp and like well spoken and that kind of stuff, Rhodes Scholar, and then George W. Bush went to Harvard Business School, but so did I, and look how dumb we are.
And an asshole too.
An asshole too. So we went that way, and then now the mirror image of Bush went to Obama.
Yeah.
Kind of another total switch.
Yeah.
And then from Obama, this slick, really well-spoken Harvard law guy, by the way.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's a secret. Go to law school, not the business
not
school.
An asshole.
Yeah, not an asshole. And then went to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
It was like a complete mirror image of I mean, because Donald Trump wasn't born in Kenya.
That's right.
He was born in America.
But like you said,
he's American.
Buttigieg will be
a mirror image of Trump.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is like in so many ways a mirror image of Trump.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking that's because
he's Harvard too, isn't he?
Maybe.
Or Yale, Harvard, I think.
Okay, but if you look at what's his name, Biden is not enough of a mirror image.
Oh, maybe.
He's kind of different,
Yeah.
but he's kind of also a straight talking dude who just like speaks off the cuff, kind of like Donald Trump does.
Oh, could be.
Like
they're
Donald
the same
Trump
age.
Yeah, they're the same age, right? And so there's just not that much of a stark contrast.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, policy-wise, they differ in many ways, but even that, they're not radically different. I mean, he's a moderate Democrat. It's not like... Then again, Buttigieg is pretty moderate as well. I mean, he's not like some... But Buttigieg looks totally sane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Versus
That's
Biden, right, which is a stark change from our current president, who's just like... has many... anyway, we all know how he behaves. Even his fans recognize, that this. And so versus Biden kind of like has a bit of a wild side to him. He swears, he does...
Challenges seniors to push-ups.
Yeah, exactly, right. So he's got a bit of a Trump kind of ishness.
Yeah.
He's not a mirror image. So that's why I'm going with Buttigieg to win the nomination and to win the election.
Wow. Okay, good. Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah,
so,
it will be.
So
always fun.
we'll see who's going to win. Last night we had a great opportunity to go to the
Garrison Keillor.
Garrison. I can't pronounce that name.
Yeah.
I just know.
Yeah, he had
Prairie
his
Home
Christmas
Companion.
show.
Yeah.
Prairie Home Companion.
Yeah.
We're going on a cruise in March. With his, they do a Caribbean cruise, but a lot of times we did a Norwegian cruise and the Baltic and the Mediterranean. So this year it's the Caribbean. So he's always fun.
Sim, it's always a pleasure to have you on board, and I miss you and hope that you're continuing to be an inspirational figure to me, and I hope to a lot of other people who listen to this, and I hope you never stop and that you don't slow down and you stay healthy and you live to maybe 1 billion years old.
There you go.
1 billion. After that, you better fucking die because I'll start getting tired of you. Because I'm going for 2 billion.
There you go.
Asshole.
Thanks, Francis. You're an inspiration. Appreciate it. Yeah. Bye-bye.
And that concludes this episode of the WanderLearn podcast, where we explore travel, technology, and transformation. If you'd like to see the show notes with links to what we talked about, or if you'd like to comment on the show, or if you'd like to ask me a question, then go to WanderLearn.com and click on this episode. If you'd like to connect with me, just remember Tapon. That's my first initial and my last name. Tapon is the username I use on all social media. You can also get to my website by going to ftapon.com. And here's one last reason to remember Tapon. If you like what I do and would like to get rewarded for supporting my projects, then go to patreon.com/ftapon. That's where you can pick up some remarkable rewards for as little as $2 a month. And now for 5 quick favors. Number 1, subscribe to the WanderLearn podcast. 2, download it. 3, share it. 4, review it somewhere. And 5, sign up for my newsletter at wanderlearn.com. Our theme music was composed by Eric Stratman. This is Francis Tapon, encouraging you to wander and learn.